Welcome back, everyone, to Podcast 1111 on a surprise special guest Sunday. Today's guest is someone who lives life the way I would love to. She's gone to school in Europe. She finds the adventure and the fun and the amazement and the passion and the zest for living in all that she does. But I don't want to spill the beans on who she is, so I will let her introduce herself. So please, mystery guest, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you, Joy, for allowing me this joyful pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Melissa Range, and I am a women's empowerment coach.
Among many, many things. That's putting it very mildly. As they will learn, there is so much more to it than that. How did you get into your line of work?
Well, how much time you got, Joy? Because it's been a long time coming, I feel like, to reach this pivotal place in my life where I feel like helping women find their power, reclaim their power, restore grace to their lives, and rebuild their intuition has been my total mantra the last few years. Yet I wasn't sure how to do that. But I have so many certifications. And over the last 14, 15 years, I've really been building myself and finding my own power in many different ways in order to be able to give back and serve women. So it was a process, I would say, of investing in myself and spending a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of energy finding my genuine truth. And then now I'm able to really step up to the level that I've been wanting to reach many, many more women in order to help them to find that authentic, genuine voice and be very empowered to go after what they want in their lives.
Well, it turns out I realized I have access to a bio that I don't know if is it out there yet. Do you mind if I share your bio?
Oh, not at all. Not at
Okay, here we go. Melissa is a single mom of three who has dedicated the last 14 years to traveling the spiritual path, growing and evolving through multiple certifications, including, I never know, it's Reiki, right?
Yes. And it's
Somebody told me I said that wrong the other day. They said it's Reiki. I'm like, no, it's Reiki. Okay.
no, and it's Karuna and Asui and Crystal and Angelic.
Oh my gosh. Okay, all of that, master teacher, Akashic record reader, firewalk instructor, crystalline priestess, money breakthrough business coach, and doula. I know.
Yes.
I know.
Yes. And
Everybody,
Sacred Money Archetypes coach and a Zumba instructor and a ballroom dance instructor. I didn't put that in there.
okay, these are the reasons I love you. I used to teach aerobics and belly dance and all that. She mentors and inspires women to reconnect with their intuition, reclaim their power, and restore grace to their lives. By reminding them who they are, she helps them to push beyond their self-imposed limitations through focused action to create the life they've always wanted. Is that an accurate depiction? I would say it is. I get to be the recipient of your work, and I've just been blown away. For now, I want to ask, what's the most rewarding aspect of your work?
I would say watching my clients transform and watching them step up, do what they and I come to an agreement in about how they can take action on their lives, and actually doing the work and coming back with this amazing smile and excitement saying, I did it. That is the most rewarding part of my work.
The thing that really makes you unique to me is the action aspect. So when you say when they did it, you ask people and you expect them to do. This isn't just about airy fairy theories and self-help concepts. You're expecting them to take actual steps, mental, spiritual, emotional, sometimes physical, but they do not stay in the place that they started. There is actual movement. Do you ever see those polls on Facebook that say, have you ever done any of these? And then you check off all the things you've done.
I
Well,
haven't.
well, by going through, like we'll say, have you ever been skydiving? Have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? Or, like, have you ever been arrested? Whatever it is. But because of the work you do with people, they get to check a whole bunch of those off. And I don't mean the arrested one, but there will be these things like that they do that are beyond what they thought they were capable of. things that are then stepping stones to even greater things that they're like, wow, I can't believe I mastered this. This is something I never expected of myself. But then once they have mastered that, then they feel like I can do anything. And then guess what? They do. They do more. It's just incredible how you level them up.
Well, thank you. And I think that that is one of the most amazing parts of the human spirit. We think that we're so limited on what's possible for us. And then when we go accomplish these big types of things, it's amazing to see how confident and how uplifted and how excited we are when we actually take the measures to go after what we want to do in our lives. And a lot of times it's inspired action. My clients will say, well, I was guided to do such and such and such. And I said, well, did you do it? Yes. And how did it feel? It felt great because it was like they were listening to their soul and listening to their heart and going after something that they knew their intuition was guiding them to do. And it's just amazing for me. And I know this from personal experience because I continue to do this in my life. I am a walk the talk kind of person. I would never tell someone to go do something out of their comfort zone or to a place where they would think I wasn't capable if I hadn't done this work myself for all these years. And I think that is something that I acknowledge when I watch or follow someone myself, is that have you done it, or are you just talking the talk but not walking the talk?
Well, I love that. And the word empowered and empowerment, those get used all the time to the point that they're sort of, losing their oomph. But
Hmm.
what I'm finding when I see the feedback that you get from the people that work with you, what I'm seeing is they truly are in a place of power. They actually feel powerful. That's incredible.
Thank you. And
And
that's what I want.
what about your work has surprised you the most?
I think what surprises me always is that people actually do the do, right? So a lot of times people will say, yeah, that sounds great. And I had over the years, I had many clients who were repeat clients that would come to me for Akashic record readings. The spirits would come in and say, you should try this, or they would suggest, or whatever. And people would say, oh, that sounds great. And then they would leave. And then, let's say a month or 2 months, 6 months later, they would want to come back for another reading. And it was amazing how those topics would be revisited. And when the clients didn't do them, it was almost like they would come back to me for me to give them the feedback, but they wouldn't take action on what I said, or the guides or the spirit said, hey, this is what you need to do to go forward in your life. And I think what ended up happening, which is what, of course, always surprised me, was they would fall away because they didn't fit into my world, or they weren't in alignment with the type of person that I am. And I have this sort of expectation when people come to me and they invest in spending time with me, I want them to get what they want. And so those types of clients are the ones that stick with me, the ones that say, I want something different for my life. I want to shift. I want to change. And I'm willing to walk through the fear and step into the fire and actually walk across the hot coals with you, Melissa, because I want that thing over there. And I know I'm only going to get it if I show up for myself and do the work. And a lot of times I'm holding those people's hands and saying, I believe in you. You can do it. Once they come back, I say, let's celebrate. What are we celebrating? And we really anchor that in. Yet I think what did most surprise me was those people who kept returning and returning, and they didn't go after what they thought they were capable of having. And that also saddened me because I want for them what they want for them.
Well, it's like someone who's got the hall closet full of all the sports gear and junk, and they come to you to help them clear it out. You open the door for them, you point out what's in there, and they're nodding and saying, oh, yeah, I got to get rid of the skis. We don't use those, or whatever it is. And then after the session, they close the door and they don't do anything about it. Then they come back to you a few months later, you open the door, the same stuff is in there because they never did anything about it.
Right. They're just not ready. That's all it is
Yep.
they're not ready to step into that space. And that's okay. That's okay. Yet I know that those people will eventually fall away from my life because I am what I like to call a push your edge kind of priestess. I'm going to push your edge because you want something and I want you to get it and I'm going to help you get it.
There's something about you that I find absolutely extraordinary, and I think most of us wish we were more like this. You are so open and willing to do whatever seems like the next good thing to do. I've gotten to work with you a little to get to be kind of behind the scenes on all the exciting stuff you've been doing lately. And if there's a suggestion that comes to you that maybe you should try doing this, and if you think it's the right thing, you'll end up telling me the next day, oh, I already blah, 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 blah. Instead of like, oh, I'm starting to think about it and maybe it's a good idea or not. You've already done it. You've already signed up for the thing. You've already purchased the tool that you needed. You've already written the huge script that you needed, whatever it is. And you don't get bogged down. You're just like, okay, that's my next thing. And then you get it done. And the willingness and that openness, it's very, very rare. It's just a beauty to behold.
Oh, well, Joy, you are so supportive and such a lovely soul. And by the way, listeners, she has helped me tremendously. And I know she's going to say, oh, Melissa, that's not true, but it really is. So just listen to me kind of gloat about how wonderful Joy is. Yet I am that type of person. I always say, I heard this from a coach once, wit, that's my call sign, whatever it takes. And a lot of women are actually like this. We are getter things doners because we know that we're going to have to either A, multitask because we have families and animals and children and husbands or partners. And I don't have, well, I have an animal, my fourth child, but I have all of these things in my life. But I know that I follow directions very well and I want to get it done because this is also one of my favorite sayings. If there's something that pushes my edge, and actually I have invested a lot of money in either a coach or a mentor, you darn well bet your sweet Bippy, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do the work because I made a commitment and invested in myself and I want that thing. And I was going to say, just going after it is a big part of the joy. And I refuse to sit in the fear. And I think that is what some people will stand behind the fear for years, and some people will never walk into the fire with regards to the fear. But I dislike so much sitting in fear that I would rather face the fear than sit in it. And I have learned this at a very deep level. And on top of that, if somebody, this is a funny thing about me, if someone says, you can't do it, in my mind, or sometimes to their face, I will say, watch me. I'm a fire, so I could say that really ignites my fire. That lights my fire, and I'm gonna show you. So you just gave me a challenge, and guess what? I will rise.
Challenge accepted.
Yes, challenge accepted. Check.
I do want to go back to the folks that weren't ready to do the work. The good news is the seeds that you've planted, they may not grow with you, they may not grow for some time, but you were effective by planting those seeds. So down the line, they will have a little epiphany. Oh, now I get what Melissa was about. And it may take years, it may take decades, but all the good that you do, I know, is taking root, even if they're not ready or able to see it at the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes we forget that because we think, oh, darn the luck. I wish that person would have come back to me and we could have delved deeper into getting them to that space they wanted to get to, but it wasn't time. And I did plant the seeds and I know that I did the work that I was meant to do and spirit guided me to do. And then I can just let go.
With all the different things you do, what are the most common misconceptions about your work?
Well, I think sometimes with this type of work that I do, people think that you have all their answers.
Oh,
Yes. And I have come to realize that no one has anyone's answers, truly. I think that mentors and coaches and spiritual advisors and people that are wiser because they've been around longer, they might have helpful suggestions, helpful teaching tools, helpful tricks, things like that they can pull out of their toolbox. But ultimately, none of us is walking in anyone else's shoes. So we can only give our experience and our own personal stories and strength and what we have done and provided, researched in our own lives, and offer that. But I think a lot of times people come to me and say, well, you've done all this work. For example, you've been through divorce, Melissa. So don't you know everything about divorce? I said, well, I wasn't in your marriage. I don't know who your partner is. I don't know what you experienced. I can only share my own personal story, and you're going to have to decide what's best for you. And I think that is a misconception because I don't have everybody's answers. I have studied and read a lot, yet I am not walking in your shoes. So I don't know your personal story.
And you're not them. You don't know the way they think, the
Right,
way they process the situation.
right.
And something I really want to get across to people is that whether you understand these things, whether you know what the Akashic records are, whether you're ready to do firewalking, what Melissa offers is practical and doable activity that will make sense to you wherever you are on your journey. So, for anybody that is wondering about this stuff, you are going to be grounded in practical, actionable steps. For example, can you tell us about the 5-day journey you just led people on?
Yes. So my 5-day journey was on financial serenity. And what I have found in all of the clients and in the things that I have studied over the last several years is there is such a poor relationship when it comes to women and money. And women have a totally different perception of money and their worth and feeling enough. And my 5-day journey was all about helping women to open up and discover what that relationship with money really looks like at a deep level. And it was fascinating to hear the comments. The women wrote a letter to money on the first day, and they couldn't believe what was transpiring in their thought patterns around this relationship. Some of them got angry, some of them were grateful, some of them were confused, mystified. And so I understand from all of my personal experience with money that it is such a big deal to uncover your wounds, your shame, and those places where you don't have an aware or conscious relationship with money because it changes the whole dynamic and perception of how you view your finances and things in life that have to do with money. It's just very powerful. And it's such a big, big piece of our earth plane existence, understanding that relationship. And we don't spend enough time with it. So that was my hope for the women to really open up that sort of Pandora's box of their relationship with money.
It was just a fascinating and so helpful journey. I loved every step of it. And that was why I wanted to bring it up because, like I said, you might deal with things of the spirit, but they're so practical and they can help people of all stripes wherever they are right now because whoever you are, you deal with money. And so these things that you help women with are things that are part and parcel of their everyday life. So helpful. People really need that.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes. And I want it to be practical because if we put it too out of what we can think is possible for ourselves. And a lot of times people are maybe at the entry level with some of these things and they just really need a mentor or a coach to walk them through some of this stuff because once they do it, it just opens them up so much to see what's possible.
You do all this amazing work. You're a go-getter. You're on the go all the time, very efficient, very goal-oriented. Here's the hiccup I want to ask about. Is it difficult to balance the logistical aspects of being an entrepreneur with your passion for helping people?
It is because there's a lot of behind the scenes work that I think always forget that I have to do. Plus, I'm a single mom of 3 children and a dog, and I maintain my own house. I have 3 cars. I like to exercise. There is a definite balance to my life. And I had to learn, actually, I wanted to write a book on this, how to balance myself with self-care. And this is one of the biggest things that I teach women when they come to me and they're just like, oh, my life is a mess. And I say, we have to start with the self-care piece, because you cannot put the oxygen mask on someone else and then yourself if the plane is going down.
Yep.
You've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. So I really teach women finding balance and creating a foundation with self-care. And once I do that, and once I have that established, everything else seems to become calmer and I seem to have a better outlook. And then I get more accomplished. And one of the ways I do that too is through meditation. I meditate every day. And I also read little meditation books and I say prayers. I start my morning with what I call non negotiables. That really helps me to center myself every single morning. And I've been doing this for years. And then at night, before I lay my head down to go to sleep, I write a gratitude list. And these are two of the biggest tools that I recommend for people, because if you start your day off in your relationship with yourself, if you call it spirit, God, source energy, whatever, and you center yourself in that space, it's so amazing how your day unfolds in a miraculous way.
Can you give us an example of a non-negotiable?
The non negotiable is once I wake up in the morning, I make myself a cup of tea and I sit in the same chair. I turn on my salt lamp or I light a candle and I read the same meditation books and I journal in the same journal until I finish that journal. And then sometimes I'll read from a different type of book and I say prayers every single morning. So that is then my children know, don't bother mom. Everybody knows that it's like 6:30 in the morning, 6:15 in the morning. And I always did it before my children would wake up to go to school. So I would get that time in and then come down and make breakfast and help them get off to school. But that is a non negotiable for me. And I even do it on vacation. I do it every single day because it sets up the framework of how my day is going to go. Because the time I spend with myself and the time I spend with source energy, my morning mentor, my daily mentor, spirit, that's how my day unfolds in a way that I feel is succinct, in alignment with my authenticity, my genuineness, Melissa, who I am. And I won't shift that because it really has made a huge impact on my life.
Absolutely. I am right there with you. And when people have asked me, well, like, why do you do that if you have other stuff to do? And I'll tell people, well, if you work in an office, you wouldn't go into the office still in your PJs without brushing your teeth and getting your stuff ready and making sure you had gas in your car. It's just preparing for the day. And you want to make sure that you're prepared, because when you're prepared, you will be of the greatest service to other people.
Mhm,
And I love
mhm.
what you said about gratitude. I learned the value of being grateful when I went to sleep through kind of an embarrassing source. Years and years ago, I was watching the old movie during the holidays. Maybe it's Holiday Inn, I guess, one of the Bing Crosby movies,
Yes.
the first time that he sings White Christmas. Anyway, they had a song in it, Go to Sleep Counting Your Blessings. I thought that was the most profound thing I've ever heard. It's in a Bing Crosby movie, you know? So ever since then, I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. If I can't sleep, I'm going to count my blessings. And there's nothing more fun than when you're going to bed thinking about all the stuff you're grateful for. Could be everything from something meaningful that happened that day to things like chocolate or the sun or the ocean. And you're so wise to do that because you are bookending your day in such a powerfully protected, positive way.
I will add a caveat here. When I also make the list, there are things that I write down about myself. So, for example, last night when I walked out of the gym, there was a woman who was chatting with me and she was asking me about some certain exercises I was doing. And we ended up talking. And I think what truly she needed someone to hear her and she needed someone to listen. And I stood there with her out at 9 o'clock at night until almost 9:30, letting her say what she needed to say about pickleball and about these other things. And my daughter, when I got home, said, "Where have you been, mom?" I said, "Oh, this lady, she just was talking, talking, talking." And when I wrote my gratitude list, though, I said, I am grateful that I was able to be a good listener for a stranger. And there's a lot of days where I will find something about I cooked a meal for someone and took it to their home, or I wrote a card to someone who I know is struggling with cancer. And I make sure that I pick one attribute or something that I felt good about myself and I put it on the list, because I think a lot of times, and this is something I do for all my clients, is remind them of what a beautiful, wonderful soul they are, and that they're here for a reason, and that they need to give themselves, if you want to call them accolades, about being a human being and living. Because I know so many people who do so many wonderful things for me all the time. But I have to remember to include myself in that gratitude list, because I also am valuable and I also am giving back to the world. And that's what I want to do. But sometimes people don't acknowledge that.
You are so right, Melissa. And I think if people did that more often and consistently, they would not be tempted to go with the I'm not enough thing, because they'd have proof every day. They would see in black and white, oh, wow, I did this. Oh, wow, I did that. I'm contributing. I'm part of the solution. And
Yeah.
they wouldn't have to jump through these hoops to try to get to the point that they felt like they were enough. They would know it in their soul.
Yes, and it's not from an ego space. I don't believe it's egocentric. I believe that it's from a space in my heart where I am giving back just in a moment, in one little moment of my life when someone needed that attention from me and I was able to give it. And that's all.
Well, you're kind of a master at it. I've seen it in action, and I've seen you hold space for people. I've seen you talk to them or interact with them when they needed it. I've also seen you be quiet when you felt that they just needed someone to be there. I think that you've got an uncanny ability to pick up on what people need and then know how to put into action something that will help them.
Thank you.
Been your biggest challenge as a solopreneur?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think you know, Joy, that the tech part of the tech part of this stuff is not my forte. Let's just say that. I love being out on stage. I love the coaching that I do. I love being in the present with people, sitting down, chit-chatting about what they need help with. The tech part is so challenging for me. And what I've learned though is, if someone else can do it, and this is a mantra for my life, if that person can do it, so can I. It might take me a little bit longer and I might have to spend more time and energy doing it, but I know that I can do it and I know it's possible. And there are other people like you who are constantly cheerleading me on or giving me tips and tricks. But that, I would say, is the hardest part for me. And that doesn't mean one day I cannot hire another VA. I used to have one, but I think that is the most challenging part of being a solopreneur. It is the tech piece, because it's a big piece of the work that we do.
And I also think that by you doing this stuff that you don't feel that it's your strong suit, that is setting the example for your clients, that you got up to bat and you swung. Sometimes it goes over the fence. Sometimes you do strike out. But
Yeah.
the thing is, you're willing to get up there and do it. And so they can't say, oh, you don't know what it's like. I sure do. I do it every day. And I think whether or not you do have a VA in the future, the fact that you've been doing it yourself right now is going to be hugely inspiring and something that people can relate to. And then they can start to think, wow, well, Melissa did it. Maybe I can do it too, whatever it is.
Right. Yes.
I mentioned earlier that I'm so inspired by your openness and willingness to try whatever weird idea comes up. And I know it was mentioned to you a while ago with everything you had going on, and which was a lot, and getting all of this going as part of a very intense mastermind group. And it was mentioned to you, you may want to consider the idea of starting a meetup group. For a lot of people, that would be so daunting and they wouldn't even know what to do. They wouldn't know where to start. Next thing I heard, like the next day, oh, yeah, well, my meetup group. I'm like, wait, what? Oh, yeah, I started the meetup group. And the things you're having them do are, it's just amazing to me. Tell us about your meetup group and tell us what you recently did and tell us what you're getting out of your meetup group.
Okay. So thank you to Joy. I'm going to give her kudos here. She's the one who suggested I have a meetup group. I followed directions very well and I started the meetup group. And what blew me away is years ago, I had a meetup group and nobody really came. It was a health and wellness. And this time, my meetup group is all about pushing women to, first of all, come together in community because women, we need community. Well, we all need community, first of all, because of after what's happened with the last 3 years in the pandemic, but we need community anyway. It's just a part of who we are, and we need to be in connection with people. It's very, very important. And the meetup group, I started all of a sudden, I think within 2 months, I had 60 women. It's up to 90 women in 4 months. And
Wow.
the most recent activity we did was we went rock climbing. And some of the women had said they wanted to go rock climbing. And I said, that sounds great. I've been indoor wall climbing once before with my son years ago. And I scaled to the top. I think I was the only mom who scaled to the top because we were racing our children. This was back 5 years ago. And so I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And so we did auto belay. But these women that came, when they got there, they looked at the wall and thought, wow, this looks really daunting. And then to see them accomplish, they're like, if I can just make it above that sign, I'll be so happy. And they all did. They all made it above the sign. But it was amazing how good they felt about themselves. And not only that, there were other women there to support them as they challenged themselves. And then on top of that, to celebrate with the women once they made it to the top or made it past the sign. It's been incredible. And already I have started to build some relationships, and we all need good, solid, fun, friendly relationships. And that to me is what this meetup is doing. And it's also getting me to just get out and make new friends. And I'm like that too, but I do that always by myself. I mean, I go out by myself and do things and just show up. But this time, I'm creating a safe communal space for women to push their edge, and they love it. And I can't even believe all the people. I mean, it's over 90 women now, and that's just in a few months. And they're giving me suggestions like, let's go roller skating, let's go on the Mississippi River and go canoeing. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that would push my edge. We've just done some great things, and it's been really fun. We're actually next month, for those women who don't like to cook, we're going to a morel mushroom cooking event, and we get to cook with morels because I love morels. And I'm doing different types of events that I don't think women maybe would think they were capable of doing. And then they're doing it and they feel so good about themselves.
And I'm thrilled you brought up the community aspect because you are rounding out our week that's all about the power of community and the importance of enlarging your circle. And you are actually living that. And everything you said about Meetup is what I hoped you and the other participants would get from it. You're making friends, you're building relationships, and you're there like those trust exercises that they do a lot with team building. Everything you're doing in your Meetup group is like that. You're saying, you can do this, and don't worry, we've got your back. That brings us to, I kind of wanted to go from your financial serenity. Now that you've finished that, what is the next step for the people that took part in that? Where do they go from there?
The next step for my clients and anyone who is interested is to have them start my Find Your Fire program. And that program is all about finding something that you want to accomplish, your passion, a desire, a want, a need that you want to bring to life, create, birth. And I started this program because what I noticed, and this is a real statistic, that 50% of women in the world don't go after what they want in life because of lack of confidence, lack of money, and lack of support. So if you just break it down, women need to have confidence. A lot of them have the money, they just won't take the time to invest in themselves because they feel they're not worth it. And then they have this beautiful community in my program to support them to bring to fruition what it is they want to accomplish, or maybe it's something I've had clients say, in this 5 weeks I want to let go of something and move into something else. I'm not sure what that is, but by the end of the program, they know exactly what it is. They're like, I am on fire to do this. And I hold their hand through this Find Your Fire program for them to really step into that space. And they've got other women in the group cheering them on as well and saying, I believe in you. You can do it. I'm so excited for you. Go after it. Go and get what you want. And the women, they all show up and they all do it and they walk away and they say, I would have never done that. I can't believe I did it. I feel so empowered. I'm using new tools within myself to bring to life what it is I want. And it's just such a joy when they finish the program on this just beautiful high note, so excited about life. And it's just amazing.
Now that is an online program, correct? They can go at their own pace.
Yes.
Okay, and it's guided, a guided online program with a community and all that. You are an interesting hybrid because you also offer these in-person activities such as your meetup group. Will there be any upcoming activities that are more part of your training, part of your work and your course and so on?
Yes, I'm hoping to do a workshop where women will come together and we will do what's called a board break. In fire school, I was trained to do many, many crazy things like walk on broken glass and break boards, break bricks, do many different types of crazy activities to push my edge to get me ready to fire walk. And then on top of that, I just visited a property a couple of days ago, and we're looking to hold a fire walk here in my area in the next few months, which will be huge because there'll be so many people I know that want to come to that. And it will really foster a new community of people who want to literally put their feet to the fire and walk across the fire. And that is such an amazing transformation when that happens.
And where are you based?
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. So if anybody, even in surrounding areas, wants to come, they can come to our fire walk in this beautiful location in Winfield, Missouri. I'm over the moon because I've wanted to do this for a little while and it seems like it's finally going to come about. And I'm just like, wow, it's amazing.
Before we go on, I want to mention something very oddball. I am all excited about your quote unquote business cards. Could you tell us what
Oh,
could you tell us about those?
yes. Well, I was at a recent networking event and everybody was giving me their business cards and they said, Melissa, do you have a business card? And I said, no, I don't have one right now. And what popped in to my mind later on was, and I have a bunch of these matchbooks at my house that I've had for years and years and years. And I love matchbooks because they're so fun to look back on and remember where I was. And so I decided, because everything I do is about fire, because I'm a fire, I wanted to have these little matchboxes with my logo, my name, my number. And so I just got these beautiful gold with my logo that actually Joy created for me. They're just gorgeous because when I give them, it'll not be something that somebody puts in a box. And this is no offense to people who have business cards, but I have a giant box of business cards that I don't refer to that I've kept. But what about a box of matches? Because even if you don't smoke, like I light a fire in my fireplace and I need matches, or I'm out and about and somebody says, well, we need a match to light this candle. Oh, I've got matches in my purse or my pocket. I just wanted to be different because that's really who I am, being always following my own, living by my own lights, I like to call it. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to literally ignite your fire by giving you this matchbox.
Well, we will put that graphic up. Looked at that picture a few times because I just think they're so beautiful.
Oh,
I just love
well,
them.
it's your logo.
Oh, goodness. It's the gold part I think is so beautiful. But thank you. That was really fun. That was our first interaction outside of our joint mastermind group, I think, was coming up with that logo. That was fun.
Yes.
Now, here's one for you. What shifts have you noticed in your industry?
I think what I've noticed is that people are starting to really kind of go within, I would say, and see more of what works for them. And I'm also noticing, I feel like certain things in the coaching industry, let's say, are getting a little mundane or a little too guru ish. And what I hope that I give back to anyone who comes and becomes my client is that the power lies within you and that you are capable. And I also notice that sometimes people spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars going after a coaching program, but they don't then actually finish the coaching program. Because I think sometimes there's too much for the person to accomplish in, let's say, 6 months, a year. And now I realize for me personally that everything I need is within me. And if I have one mentor, maybe, or I'm doing one thing at a time, I can really hone and get really good at what I'm doing.
Well, I have to tell you, I don't even think of you as a coach. In my head, I consider you a life doula.
Yes, or a midwife. A lot of times, what people
Yep.
say is you're like a life midwife.
Yep. I think that's the perfect way to put it. What is something you can share about yourself that people may not expect?
That people may not expect.
Something surprising about you.
Well, I'm very petite. And I think sometimes because I have such big energy and I have this ability to bring it, bring the fire, I think people think, oh, that small woman over there, she's not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And then I turn up the volume within myself or pump up the volume and I go after and do what I think people wouldn't expect me. Kind of like when I went out to play pickleball, people weren't expecting me to be really good automatically because I said, oh, I'm a beginner. This is my first time. And then I picked it up within 30 minutes. And they
Wow.
said, how'd you do that? I said, I don't know. I played tennis for 30 years. And they're like, oh, that's why. But I think because I said, oh, I was a beginner, they weren't expecting me to be as good as I was instantaneously.
Right. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're also a fantastic singer. Oh my gosh.
That's nice, Joy.
I love to hear you sing. What are you looking forward to next?
I think what I'm looking forward to is expanding out and reaching more people with my work because I took a sabbatical for a little while after my dad died, and then my mom died, and the pandemic and things like that. Now I've got two children off to college. I think I'm looking forward to expanding and bringing more people together through my meetup, through my Find Your Fire program. I really want those areas to flourish because I know when people step up and do this work for themselves, they really have a more fulfilled life and they come into a place where they love themselves at a deeper level. I am so excited that things are shifting in our world and people are really starting to say, hey, this isn't working for me, or I need something more for myself. This doesn't serve me anymore. And I want something more. And I want a deeper relationship with myself. And I want a deeper connection to others. And I think that's what I'm really looking forward to. And I know for me, every time I step into something new, whatever or any type of activity, I always am building and finding new relationships, kind of like our mastermind. It's amazing because we've met all these beautiful women from all over the place. It feeds your soul, it gives you hope and excitement about what's possible. And I think that's what I'm really looking forward to.
A couple of things you've said are so important to me. The way that you've described things that people would consider self-care, it's so far beyond getting a mani-pedi or getting a massage. This is stuff that is going to care for your soul, not just be a momentary fix or even what you might call a band-aid, but it's going to actually lead to transformation of the soul and just let the soul be all it's supposed to be. I love that that's the approach you have. There's just so much more to it than the surface stuff.
Yes. And we can be. We live in a very materialistic world. And that's going to have to change. And I know it is because we can't keep living this way. And I know my life's mission and my work is to help people hear their souls and listen to themselves and what calls them and where their joy is, what they want for their lives to be more fulfilled and happy. And it's not those things we a lot of times think we see with our physical eyes. It's the internal stuff. Because when you think about it, when we leave this place, we can't take it with us. We can only take what we've experienced and what we hold dear internally. We can't take the material. So the building of the relationships, the camaraderie, the laughter, the togetherness, the connection, for me is the biggest gift that I can give and receive in my life.
And that is exactly why we had you on during Community Week, because you live it. You live all the best aspects of community. Just love it. In our non interview podcast episodes, the other 6 days a week, every day we assign listeners a tiny task. What sort of tiny task would you like to assign to them today?
I would love it if people would write a gratitude list. It doesn't have to be at night and it doesn't have to be a huge list. But even if they're walking around their house one day or they're in their kitchen and they can just grab a post it note and they can just write down a couple of things, maybe five at most, of what they're grateful for. Because I definitely believe that that shifts their energy and puts a different perception on life.
Sure does. I love that. What advice would you give to someone who's at a crossroads or maybe is just feeling kind of blah in their life?
Well, first of all, I think to acknowledge that that's where they are and that it's okay because a lot of us have crossroads or stuck points. We go through many of those in our lives. And then I think from there, listening by either through meditation or through just being silent, or one of my favorite things to do is go out in nature without my phone. I tell this to everybody, go out in nature, take a walk, and listen to what you need to feed your soul or get you motivated or inspired to change something. And a lot of times when I go out in nature, oh my gosh, I come back with so much information, so many downloads, so many new things that I could try or ponder when I leave being in nature because it's a way for me to come into my intuition and be in alignment. But I would definitely say go out, or you can ground yourself, even take your shoes off, go out in the grass.
Oh, I was just going to ask you if you have ever considered with your meetup group going earthing.
No, I haven't. And that's a great one because I have been earthing. I actually have earthing products and I bought those, oh my gosh, 15 years ago. And now grounding is becoming such a buzzword. But I read the original book and bought some of the products. And I was having my children and I ground our feet on this mat in our family room every day. So that's another thing that people can do. Just getting out in nature is one of the biggest ways that I find solace, I find peace, I find answers. I feel so free and inspired. That is such good medicine for my soul.
That is absolutely beautiful. And I've often told people if they feel they're not religious, they don't want to do church. I'm like, if you want to have a religious experience, go to the redwoods, go out in nature. There's
Yes.
nothing more inspiring to me than nature and tap into the divine within us by being out in nature.
hmm
Any last thoughts you want to share with our listeners?
I just am so grateful to be here with you today. And I think that as our world shifts and we step into, I guess, more of a place where we're becoming more conscious, that people really would listen to what they need to understand about themselves and to really embody that beautiful part of themselves. Because I believe that when we start to open up and open more of our hearts, of course, it not only affects us, but there's such a ripple effect. And we need that in the world right now. And we do need community greatly, desperately. And I'm seeing that all over the place. People need each other to come together and to talk about their real feelings and about being supportive of one another. And I think that is so critical right now. And be open and willing to share your heart and be vulnerable, because when you do that, it is so amazing what comes about, what transpires in life for you when you're open and vulnerable. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
Thank you, Melissa. That was perfect. I wanted to end on that note, but I realized I'd forgotten something important. We talked about your incredible program. Doesn't it start literally tomorrow on March 4th?
Yes, it does. It
Oh my
starts
God.
tomorrow. Yes.
Okay, well, we should have talked about that earlier. I apologize. I always try to end on the last thoughts, inspiration notes, but people would have gotten after me if I didn't tell them when it started and if they'd missed out on it. So everyone, whatever they say, run, don't walk, to click the button or click,
Yes.
click the link in the
Run.
description box below. Exactly. Or get those tapping fingers going. And we will be sure that we put all of your contact information, all the places they can commune with you, your incredible tribe, both in person and online. And I'm so grateful to get to be part of your online community. And I do have a trip to St. Louis in my future at some point to get to do some of this stuff with your meetup group.
Yay.
Everything that you've shared is just so inspiriting, I guess you'd say. Really makes you feel like, yeah, I can do it. Not in any sort of scary way, but just sort of in a buoyant way. And I just think that people have, it's hard for me to talk right now because I've got a dog who keeps trying to get my attention. He's so sorry. So, Charleston, behave. You're not going firewalking today. My goodness. So I just think people would so enjoy, whether it's in person, especially because of the unusual things you do. But the online community that you have put together is really special. You sort of touched on it. The way people in that community support each other and cheer each other on,
Mhm.
and they notice the uniqueness of each person and what they have to offer and what they are bringing to the group, but also how they're growing individually. It's just a real treat to get to be part of. So I will let you go. And to everyone listening, I will say, come back tomorrow for a new topic, a new week. And Chedi, stay calm, everyone. Tuta.